Hey guys, Simlord here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Four Horseman Studios Mythic Legion's Illythia wave, Vallak. Now before we get into it here, let's first take a look-see at both the front and the back of the packaging. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, Vallak does come with a bow and quiver of arrows, because what is a vampire ranger without a bow and a quiver of arrows? Now it should be worth mentioning, just like Lord Bardrick and Artemis Silvercard 2.0, he did also come with a loose arrow, but I have that in storage right now so I wouldn't lose it. That said, it should also be worth noting, he's got the same bow as Apharius. This is the very incredibly long bow. So he's going to take up some real estate on the shelf, on top of the fact that, well, there's something else that's going to help him take up a lot of real estate on the shelf. So Four Horsemen don't care how much space you don't have, clearly. That said, his quiver is significantly different from both Artemis, Bardrick, and Apharius. So I didn't mix those up, thankfully. That said, he also comes with, if I can get it here, a sword with a scabbard, which is a first for me. You can pull the sword right out. It is a probably an average sized sword, I would say. It might be a little bit longer than, I guess the best example I got right now is the Templar Knight's sword. Mostly because most people were able to pick that up this past year, because of that whole in-stock sale and everything. But it looks a little bit longer than that sword, but maybe a little bit shorter than, say, the Barbarian Deluxe figure sword, which had like the more angled hilt on it. This is somewhere in between, but I do appreciate the scabbard. I think that's awesome. I don't like having the swords just kind of hanging out like that. I do like this scabbard. I wish we got it with more figures. But it is what it is. It's nice to have one. And maybe now my Vampire Knight will have a proper sword to carry around. That said, the piece de resistance for this figure, other than that sword with the scabbard, because I really like that, is Cinder, his pet Falcon. It was very brightly colored. He looked a little gold in the promo images. Doesn't look quite as gold in hand, but is fairly bright. For a guy who's a master of stealth, he's got some bright accoutrements and accents, if you will, to go along with his very dark demeanor. That said, as far as articulation goes on this guy, only the head moves. I would have liked some closed wings for this. Just to take up less real estate on the shelf. Maybe Four Horsemen will find a way to make that a possibility at some point. But as it stands, you don't got to worry about the wings drooping or anything. They will hold the test of time. Very solid PVC material, but that will probably make his arm loose. Just gonna forewarn you guys about that. There's a lot of weight here. And I think having a Falcon with closed wings would be a nice option at some point. Maybe we'll get an expansion pack for all the Falcon characters. And they will all have closed wings instead of open wings. But don't get it twisted. I may have my gripes with this figure as far as taking up a crap load of space and having some interesting color choices. But this is probably my favorite figure in the wave. I was really looking forward to this guy, and if I'm being quite honest, with the exception of some of those colors, particularly the very bright purple for his cloak and some of the gold here, this is essentially my mind's eye view of Dracula. You know, a hooded, badass warrior knight type character that just straight up doesn't care about humans or the well-being of others, and totally throws down, like, on a consistent basis. So, I really like this guy for those reasons. So, taking a closer look at Vallak here. And yeah, Master of Stealth. Bright lavender ass cloak. Not quite sure what he's going for there. Maybe it's a cloak of invisibility. I didn't see that in the bio, but maybe that's what he can do. It should be worth noting that this piece here just kind of sits there. If I pop his head off for a minute, you can remove this and put the head back on like so. And I think that looks fine, and for articulation's sake, I will leave that collar off for now. But I think the collar does help with the overall aesthetic of the character. So as far as articulation goes, his head can bobble up and down. He can tilt side to side a little bit. He can look side to side too. His neck does rotate, but it's very stiff on mine. That said, you can hinge the shoulder pads out the way and lift up the arm about here. I don't want to push it too far because I don't want to pop it off, and it's kind of a pain in the nuts to get on there, at least for me, because I am using the arms for the cloaks in this wave. I think having them kind of bow out like this adds a little bit of character, but you can rotate them forward and back. Don't have to worry about the cloak getting snagged or torn or anything because the arm is fairly loose in the socket. Not in a bad way, but in a good way. It gets movement out of it without stressing out the fabric, is what I'm saying. That said, he does have a single joint at the elbow that does bend a little better, 90 degrees. He's got a swivel at the glove, swivel at the wrist with a hinge, and if you're curious on how to get that Falcon on his wrist, you just raise his arm like that, pop off the hand, maybe heat that up first, don't just go for it like a crazy person like I just did, and you slip this over top like so. It doesn't really lock into place either, so it just kind of flops. I think they could have a better way for this to fit. Honestly, I would just like a full gauntlet, like an interchangeable lower arm, as opposed to this slip-on thing. I'm not going to peg his hand in all the way, but you get the idea. There you go. There he is with his Falcon. So he's like Soundwave from Transformers. He's talking to Laserbeak, which is another reason I really like this guy. Trying to get this hand back in. Which can be easier said than done if I'm being quite honest. They got a nice pop to him, but gee whiz, man. Yeah, that's really there we go. I didn't even get the pop. I just kind of forced that sucker in there. That's what she said. That said, he does have the torso bobble, which, like Lord Bardrick, a little bit loose on this wave. I don't know what's going on with that. It must be the new torso. Maybe it's it feels a little softer. Not gonna lie. He does have the hole in the back for the wings, by the way. But it does feel a little softer than the torsos we're used to getting in this line, so maybe that's got something to do with it. That said, he does have the shorter loin piece. It's like a loincloth, but it's really, really short, so he can sit even with this attached. Then he's got the rubberized side skirts here. They're more like leather plates than straight armor plates, and they will get out of the way for the hips, which can kick out to the side, back down. It is split on the side, so you can get the splits. Kick forward, kick back, thigh cut, single joint at the knee, which, like Lord Bardrick, a little loose, so maybe tighten them up a little bit, guys. I act like they watch my videos. Maybe they do, I don't know. I don't judge. I wouldn't watch my own videos, but that's just me. He's got the swivel below the hinge. And then he has the hinge in the feet with the swivel on the top. With the swivel on the top, and I'm gonna bend it forward here. There. The swivel on the top and the rocker on the bottom, as well as the peg holes at the bottom of the feet. For the display stand he does not come with, but you can buy the 4 Horseman stands or use the McFarlane stands. Those work just fine. And also, like Lord Bardrick, you do get a couple of places to store weapons, and he can actually hold both the sword and the quiver of arrows on his belt there. That said, there's the neck articulation. It just rotates. Figured I'd show you that before I threw this big boy on. I like this collar piece a lot. I think it adds to the cloak. But again, a master of stealth. I would think he would have rocked a black cloak, not a lavender purple, bright purple cloak. At least they look bright to me. Maybe it's darker than I really think it is, but at any rate, I love this guy. No homo. I love this figure. It's awesome. It is my mind's eye view of Dracula for the most part, and I think the Horseman did a great job on this guy. I think he's awesome. He's great. Probably my favorite figure of the wave. Also, I need to get another pair of these legs for my Blade Killer custom figure. These are Blade Killer's legs, with the exception of no spikes and no skull knee pads. So, you know, they're a dulled down version of Blade Killer's legs is what I'm getting at, but I'm going on a tangent with that. This is long enough. Drag this out long enough. So with that being said, let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here is Vallak, next to a couple other members of Illythia's brood, Carpathius and Vorgus Vermilius, aka the Blood Armor, who technically isn't a vampire, while also at the same time technically is a vampire. And the main reason I say that is because we do not have a vampire head sculpt for this character yet. Me personally, I fully intend on using that screaming vampire head from the head pack released in All-Stars 5 Plus with my Vorgus Vermilius. Feel free to do with yours as you wish, but that's what I intend to do with mine. I cannot wait to do that because I've been waiting to give that character a little bit more personality, because as much as I love this figure, it seems a bit lacking. That said, I do believe that both Carpathius and Vorgus here were a part of the very first wave of Mythic Legions figures. If I'm not mistaken, they were part of that very first Kickstarter campaign the 4 Horsemen did for this line. But of course, if you're a latecomer to the line, such as myself, you picked them up when they were re-released in All-Stars 2.0. And last but certainly not least, we have our 2 regulars, Brother Mandibulus from Advent of Decay, and the Limited Spawn, who as usual towers over everyone. So with that being said, time to wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and while good old Vallak here may more or less be a typical vampiric character from Illythia's brood, don't get it twisted. Sometimes less is more, and in this case, less definitely is more. Yeah, he doesn't have all the bells and whistles like Illythia does, but in this case, I don't think that's necessary by any stretch of the imagination, because while he may be more or less a Carpathius-esque character in the fact that he is not a core member of Illythia's brood, we don't have a whole lot of options for this faction right now. I'd say along with Sons of the Red Star, Illythia's brood is one of the least fleshed out factions in the Mythic Legions line right now, and the fact that we are getting complete waves dedicated to filling up these factions with more characters is pretty freaking awesome if you ask me. And if you are looking to bolster your Illythia's brood with a Vampire Ranger, then look no further than good old Vallak here. And rest assured, I don't think this will be the only Vampire Ranger that we get for this faction, or in this line in general, because I know some characters tend to break off into other factions, you know, and that's kind of what House of the Noble Bear and Sons of the Red Star is all about, after all. And I'm sure this is not the only time we will see some of these parts reused. I mean, look, we've already gotten a Ranger for Xylona's Flock with the Falcon, and essentially the same sculpt as this guy right here in All-Stars 5+. So the future looks quite bright for more Ranger characters utilizing a bulkier 1.0 style body buck here. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you're so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. Hope you guys are looking forward to all the spooktacular action figure reviews I got planned for the month of October. I know I am, but if you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions, as well as the Mythic Legions Cabal over on Facebook. Be a part of the Mythic Legions community, but as always, keep the comments civil, because at the end of the day, I love 4 Horsemen and what they do, but damn it all if these things aren't taking up a shitload of real estate, right? And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.